Hey, Shalom, Kal Halalim La Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Waharakhakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of GMS who rule well, who I learned this truth from, and salutations and blessings to you elect out there, starting with 144,000. So I've been meaning to do this lesson. I've been meditating on it. I was just coincidentally, ironically, I was sick. All right, I was sick this last week, the first time in about a year, because of circumstances beyond my control, which weaken my immune system. But anyway, I'm back, and I wanted to do this lesson because I was inspired by, the elder Kanak has been with our camp for about 2 months, and aside from everything that happened, there was a big blessing in that, and me and him had some very meaningful conversations, and a lot of things came out in the spirit about health in general. And he made a great point that I've been meditating on, and it really triggered me to do this lesson because pretty much we're going into health and how a lot of brothers, and it's not wicked, but again, some brothers get caught up in, what is that, sensationalism because of what they seen on a TikTok, on an Instagram reel, on a meme, on a YouTube video. Um, where the scriptures say that knowledge shall be increased. We're in the age of information. There's a lot of things popping up, a lot of information every day, every day, every day. There's too much information out there. Um, Knowledge is cool, but you need that wisdom and understanding. That prudence to divide, as the book of Sirach says, the knowledge of wickedness. Right? Knowledge just means to know. So the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. Um, a lot of things come out on these TikToks and Instagram and memes that you just put out and you don't validate it. This is for myself first and foremost. I'm into health, into natural, holistic living, medicine, all that. This is not by any means a information on cures or a diagnosis or treatment. This is just for educational purposes. But I have been doing this for over 15 years, right? So into the health, into the medicine, and really, into holistic living. And that's why I say this is first and foremost for myself. When I see a meme or something, unless I already know that that's true, a lot of times you just read things on a meme and it's like a highlight, you know. Take this herb for this issue, and that's cool, but you need to understand in what form. There's many things I'm going to bring out, right? But you got to understand it's not as simple as, hey, take this for this, boom, that's cool. People don't think about, okay, what form. Like I said, are you taking it in a tea? Are you taking capsules? Are you taking tincture? um People don't think about, hey, is this person on any prescription drugs? Well, why does that matter, Ak? It matters a big deal because, first of all, even you just not prescribing, we're not using those words. We're not prescribing, we're not, again, treating, we're not curing, but just you giving information to somebody saying, hey, you should take this for that, you know, from a moral sense, you're liable, I'm not even going to go into Esau's liability, right? A person can sue you or whatever the case is. You can get charged or whatever the case is. Here in Canada, we're very bound by Health Canada, and yeah, we're very strict here. Again, this is not medical information. This is just education, educational purposes. But you got to think from a moral standpoint, man. Even who was that? Hippocrates, the so-called father of medicine. He said the first rule of medicine is to do no harm, right? And from, like I said, a moral standpoint, you want to do the best for your brother. I get it. You just came into some information. A brother asked you, hey, what do you think? You're kind of good with herbs. I want your opinion on this. You either say, look, I don't know, or I'll look into it. And by look into it, you really look into it. You don't just look up on Google, hey, what do I do for this and that? And Google's going to give you its own answer, or ChatGPT, or whatever the case is. If you have not been involved in these things for a while, and what I mean involved, you know, certain healers, like for me, example, one top healer that I've been following, I actually got their book as well, as Dr. Christopher. Dr. Christopher goes way back. He has some great lectures you can listen to on YouTube. And he goes systematically. He goes through the cardiovascular system. He'll go to the respiratory system, to the endocrine system. He'll break down things, herbs and formulas, how they work. Why did he make those formulas, right? So he'll actually break down things. Dr. Sebi's another one, but he's, again, a lot of guys, they're very, hey, this is the way or the highway, right? A lot of it is, it's my way, pretty much. At the end of the day, brothers, there's so many things out there. Like I said, there's so many healers, and people were rocking with Dr. Sebi, and they still do. But again, we're going with biblical, right? We're going with scriptures. We filter everything through the scriptures. Dr. Sebi says you can't eat honey. You know, so sheep cheese, right? Or sheep milk. Any kind of thing like that. We know in the scriptures these things are good for us. So who are you gonna believe? Who are you gonna believe? Anyway, let's get into the scriptures. Salakia. This is Sirach 38 and 4. The Lord Yahweh hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them, right? That's why Esau can't patent these herbs. He can't patent the true medicines. He makes his own medicines, which he calls medicines, but they're really poisons or toxins. Okay? These pharmaceutical drugs, they actually, if every time you take a pharmaceutical drug, they slow the chemical reactions between your cells. They slow. What does that mean? It means, layman's terms, it slows down your whole body. It oxidizes and slows down your whole body, your thought process, okay? The normal functioning of a cell, which, by the way, a cell, which we have what? What do they say? We have like trillions of cells. They used to say that each cell, right? Each cell, take this in, each cell has 100,000 processes that it does per second. That's what they used to say. Now, what they found out, again, this is Esau, he says that it's not 100,000, it's a million. Each trillions of cells, each cell performs 1 million chemical processes, or just processes, reactions per second. So every time you're taking a pharmaceutical drug, right, you're jacking yourself up, man. And I get it. It's not today, it's not next week, but you're gonna feel it. Okay? So it says, was not the water made sweet with wood, that the virtue thereof might be known? And he hath given men skill, that he might be honored in his marvelous works. Right? That's the point. You gotta, the skill is given to men, but it's all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay? Because the skill given was to do what? To understand the herbs, how they work, how they look, how to harvest them, right? I'm talking about a full healer, physician, apothecary. Um, and at the same time, really, an apothecary and physician, they're two different things, you know, because the apothecary can just make the stuff. The physician is actually dealing with the person, right? Which, this is the next verse. It says, Slakis, verse 8, but we're going to read verse 7. With such doth he heal men, and taketh away their pains, right? Because you have analgesic herbs. Analgesic means pain relieving, right? So you have herbs that have, they act like morphine. So where do you think the morphine comes from, right? There's natural things, just like people are on cocaine, which is a stimulant. That comes from what? The cocoa plant, which by itself, if you chew on a cocoa plant, you get a buzz, you get a stimulant, a natural stimulant, right? When you're on a far journey, you got some cocoa leaves in your pouch, in your satchel, you chew on a few of them, them bad boys. That's like a 2 3 espresso shots in a natural way. So these things are already here, but Esau will isolate it, right? He'll take the medicine, the plant, and he'll isolate a chemical that he found. Okay, whatever pain relieving chemical. Like for example, aspirin. Aspirin is derived from where? From the willow bark tree, right? From the willow tree, from the bark, because there's a compound in there that kills pain. But again, he'll isolate it. The Most High made things in a full array, right? What I mean by a full array is it's dosage dependent, of course. Each herb has its dose, but um, it's made in a way that it won't harm you unless you take a crazy amount. And that's not, again, that's dose dependent. Some herbs you have to really know which herbs, man. Like golden seal. If you take too much golden seal, you're gonna jack yourself up. That's a very potent bitter, right? It's really an antibiotic, right? Naturally. Verse 8, of such the apothecary. See, so the apothecary, now a physician can be he can be apothecary too. That's a high level right there, because you're already making things. You're making compounds, right? Um, of such that the apothecary make a confection, and of his works there is no end. And from his and from him is peace over all the earth. My son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord, and he will make thee whole. Leave off from sin, and order thine hands aright, and cleanse thy heart from all wickedness. See? So listen, healing is a process, man. It's not just, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that, I'm going to take the third, and I'm good. No. Your sins, man, when you're jacked up, man. I had a hernia, right? I had a minor hernia, Bracketeal Shai. I didn't need surgery because I wouldn't look, man. I don't go to the hospital, and I'm not kidding, bro. And I'm not trying to sound like a tough guy. I do not like that shit. The only way I'm in a hospital is if I'm unconscious and someone calls 911, and I wake up and I'm in a fucking ambulance. But I do not go to hospitals, okay? Unless again, like I'm in a car crash. Hey, Lord's will, that doesn't happen, but emergencies, right? But when I had my minor hernia, I was jacked up. I was bedridden for a month, and guess what? I'm thinking about my iniquity, my sins. I deserve this. This is good, and I'm in deep, deep pain. Okay? So healing is not just, I'm gonna do this, and I did things that helped. I used the castor oil pack with a heat pad. That thing helped like crazy. Okay, exponentially, very, very, very fast healing I received from that. Okay. Um, I actually had a hernia twice. That I did it on my second time, right? Not on the first time. I didn't know about it, but the second time I did it, and I was all from weightlifting and shit. But um, man, healing is not just you're just rest, and you're resting, and yeah, you gotta rest and take the herbs, but you gotta pray to the Lord, man. Like, yo, why am I in this? Okay, I'm jacked up. Salah. You gotta put your prayers up, man. Acknowledge your iniquity. Confess to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay, healing is a serious process, and depending on how long your road to healing is, it's a self-discovery, self-awareness. What did I do? Okay, how do I get better from this? What does the Lord really want me to do? And you know what the Lord wants you to do. You've been putting it off, you know? So leave off from that iniquity, right? So I asked Chat, I picked Chat's brain on this exact subject, and it was that word? Compartmentalized, it ordered things all right. Let's put it that way. It organized things. So I'm gonna read. So it says social media rewards what's viral, not what's true. Holistic health is context heavy. Constitution, season, age, terrain, stress, digestion, history. Memes flatten all of that into take this herb for inflammation. That's how people worsen imbalances, flare autoimmune disease or issues, overstimulate their nervous system, or blame the herb instead of the misuse. Virality equals clinical wisdom. Exactly. Right? Viral. Oh, it's a viral moment. Oh, this herb or that herb. And you have not even taken the due diligence to read about the herb. You haven't read about the dosage. You know, You haven't read about the possible side effects. You haven't read about if it um what's that word, pretty much reacts, or what are the contradictions or contraindications, meaning if I'm on a blood thinner, there's a lot of herbs you can't take if people are on blood thinners, and you'd be surprised how many people are on blood thinners. Okay, I'm just saying, if you're giving advice to your mother, or some cousin, or friend, you gotta ask, man. These are questions I ask. Hey, are you on any medication? Oh yeah, I'm taking this and I'm taking that, and that's some more information that I need. Okay, because now I gotta see what you can and can't take. And you can't just come off the medications either. You gotta get weaned off. And Esau knows that. Esau loves that shit. He got you on the medications and pharmaceuticals, and he knows that interacts that will counteract the herbs, and possibly even give damage. And now who's liable? This person just had a stroke. Who the fuck's liable? You, you Salaki, you better look, man. You brothers, man, with this health, just understand. Just because you read some things and you're good with this and you're making whatever, and this goes for me. Be careful, man. Okay, when you're giving advice, just be careful. Okay, dosage, preparation, and timing are ignored. A TikTok might say go-to cola repairs fascia. Cool, but fresh leaf versus tincture versus powder. And there's a difference between fresh leaf and dried leaf, right? You got fresh ginger and you got dried ginger. What's the difference, Ak? The energy, right? The energy is different. The fresh ginger, it gives obviously the warmth and some of the spice. The dried ginger is more concentrated. Some people can't handle the dried ginger. It's too much fire. Okay, you need more of the fresh ginger than you do the dry ginger in your preparations. Okay, so it says here, dose taken with food or empty stomach. That's another thing. Majority of herbs are taken on an empty stomach, but sometimes people with a sensitive digestive system, a sensitive stomach. Okay, sometimes you might get nausea or diarrhea or certain pain, just a pain in your stomach. That means you need to take it with food. Okay, hot constitution or cold, long-term versus acute use. In holistic medicine, how matters as much as what. Social media skips the how entirely. And see, this is a thing, like in Canada, our naturopathic system, right? The holistic herbs and vitamins and supplements, it's unregulated. So what does that mean? Health Canada doesn't regulate it. It's up in the air. Literally anybody can create a so-called company, a holistic company, get capsules, get a label, nice, fancy, beautiful label, get a bunch of shipping labels, containers, whatever, start making, hey, this is this formula and this is that formula, and start selling it, until someone gets really sick and then they get sued or whatever the case is. But nobody's checking. And that's part of the chaos that they enjoy, right? Because a lot of stuff just doesn't work, or they can cause harm, right? Memes confuse tonics with drugs. A big mistake online, treating herbs like pharmaceuticals. This replaces ibuprofen, or treating tonics like instant fixes. Real holistic systems, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, Western herbalism, build over weeks to months. And I'll put this in, it's a lifestyle. It's not just a get well for a moment style. Okay, just a seasonal style. No, it's a lifestyle. You got to make some real, depending on on the severity of your situation, it depends, man. You might need to really, some people need a 180. Some people need a whole 360. Some people, you got to make concrete core changes in your life, man. Your patterns, your habits, even the way you think. Even the way you think, man. Your body reacts, your cells react to how you think. Okay? That's why there's a scripture in the Apocrypha that mentions about, having a joyous mind, this is like a medicine, or this in the Proverbs, but there's one in Sirach, pretty much a good attitude, a joyous, happy mind. You know, if you're just toxic and angry, and okay, the scriptures say be angry, and I'm angry at Esau, and I'm angry at this, you know, uh, you gotta regulate that, man, because look, it's all about that nervous system too. You know, if your nervous system is programmed to fight or flight, you know, which majority of people are in that sympathetic fight or flight stage, you got to switch to the parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. Even when you sleep, a lot of people aren't even sleeping in rest and digest. Their heart rate is up, their cortisol is sky high. Okay, they take some sleeping pills and they think they're sleeping. They haven't even entered deep sleep, what they call REM sleep, REM cycle sleep, which is rapid eye movement, right? So you have not even entered to heal, to digest. That's why a lot of people can't lose weight, because their cortisol is up. You know, after they say after a long, or not long, but after a heavy onset of anger, a big episode of anger, when you get really angry, they say your cortisol stays up for like 6-7 hours, man. And when your cortisol is up, your blood sugar's up, your heart rate's up, um, it's just not good for your cardiovascular, your whole body, to be honest, right? So again, you got to think, you got to take it in. People drive every day to work, they're traffic, they're pissed, they're road rage, this guy cut them off, and then they get to work where they don't want to be, and then they're drinking coffee, their adrenaline's up, their cortisol's just sky high. I'm trying to keep my blood sugar down, I'm taking these high blood pressure pills. They're just all fucked up, man. Okay, and it takes just a few core changes of your life. You know, it says builds over weeks to months, work with rhythms, right? Circadian, seasonal, hormonal, right? Because life is in rhythms, it's in cycles. Emphasize terrain, not symptom suppression. Memes sell urgency. Healing requires patience. No lineage, no clinical accountability. Most viral creators don't cite classical texts, don't reference case studies. Exactly. That's a very big one. You know, you ask somebody, hey, when's the last time you read a double-blind study? What's a double-blind study? Okay, you want any kind of study, always remember you want a double-blind peer study. Okay, a peer-reviewed double-blind study. That's one of the most credible studies for anything, right? Don't reference case studies. Don't explain contraindications, which is what the drugs, right? The drugs and the herbs, what can react together in the negative way. Don't follow clients long term. A real practitioner asks, who should not use this? What does this interact with? What happens after 30, 60, 90 days? Social media almost never does. It creates false confidence. This one is dangerous. People start self-prescribing, stacking 6 to 10 herbs, mixing warming plus cooling remedies, ignoring liver load, digestion, and nervous system strain. Holistic health gone wrong doesn't fail loudly, it fails slowly and quietly. That's the most dangerous kind. Memes promote trends, not foundations. Trends rotate. 1 month it's ashwagandha, next it's shilajit, then raw garlic, then parasite cleanses, but foundations never change. Sleep, digestion, breath, nervous system regulation, movement, mineral balance. Memes sell shortcuts, practitioners build systems. The practitioner's role is discernment, not repetition. If a practitioner just repeats TikTok advice, they're outsourcing judgment to an algorithm. They lose credibility, they stop practicing and start reposting. A holistic practitioner should be filtering information, translating wisdom to the individual, protecting clients from harm, saying this is not for you when needed. The balanced truth: social media can be useful for inspiration, broad awareness, starting curiosity, but it would never replace texts, training, mentorship, case experience, careful observation. All right, now there's the next thing I asked Chat. pretty much about healing. How does healing happen from a holistic perspective, right? Holistic healing works with causes, not cover-ups. Conventional symptom relief often blocks pain, shuts down inflammation, forced chemistry to comply, or forces chemistry to comply. Holistic healing does the opposite, uncovers what the body adapted to, restores communication between systems, retrains digestion, immunity, nerves, and hormones. When you remove the crutches, the body has to relearn how to walk. That relearning phase feels uncomfortable, right? And pain is good, depending on the pain is good. Um, you know, but again, you have this thing called healing crisis, right? People don't understand. Before you start feeling better, you start feeling shittier and exponentially. You start feeling really bad. A large part of it is when you start doing deep detox, like intracellular detox, which just means you're actually detoxing from your cells. The thing is, even your cells, you got to understand your cells poop, right? There's excrement from cells, even that gets trapped. If a person's lymphatic system is trapped, like the elder Kanakami, he's going into about the eliminative channels, right? Your kidneys, your lymphatic system. Okay, especially the lymph system. You got to think of your body. You got two rivers. You got the Ganges River, the river of death, which is your lymphatic sewage drainage system, right? You sweat things out, right? Like lymph nodes, like right under your armpits. There's lymph right there. That's one. And then the river of life, which is your blood. You got to keep that clean. But again, greasy food, bad diet, fried foods makes the blood thick. Okay, the viscosity of the blood is very thick and clumpy. That's where you get blood clots after a while, right? It gets very clumpy and thick. It's not flowing, you know. So again, this is where stagnation comes in. From a Chinese perspective, they call that qi stagnation or energy blockage. Okay, a lot of people's energy. What happens if the river's going and then it's blocked? There's buildup. There's buildup. It has to redirect somewhere, and then you get pain, you get inflammation, you get acidity, you get toxicity building up from all that. The pH starts to change. A lot of the pH is messed up in people, man. It's acidic, and your body's striving to be alkaline at least slightly. 7 point, what is that? I forget. 7.1 or 7.3 or something like that. Nothing crazy like 8. That's too high, but it's around 7 something. And guess what? If it's not getting that, it starts leaching minerals from your bones. Calcium is alkaline, right? That's one of the most useful, minerals in the body, calcium. So your body starts degenerating. It starts to be in a degenerative state, right? So it says, I was going to say verse 2, but number 2, your body stored problems because it had to. Chronic issues are often survival strategies, compensations, emergency adaptations. Examples: inflammation to protect tissue, fatigue to prevent burnout, anxiety to maintain vigilance, tension to stabilize weak structures. When healing begins, those adaptations are no longer needed, so the body starts letting go. Letting go equals instant relief. Letting go equals transition. Detox is not just physical, it's neurological and emotional. People oversimplify detox. Real detox involves liver and lymph mobilization, gut microbiome shifts, nervous system recalibration, hormonal repatterning, emotional memory release. A lot of these things are stuck, man. Stuck in different parts of the body. Trauma, right? You have a thing called trauma, TRE, trauma release exercises. That's a whole different field you can look into, right? Like me, I do my qigong, I do my breathing. There's all kinds of exercises. First of all, just to breathe properly, to practice full body breathing. You're already training your diaphragmatic breathing. You're opening your lungs more, your clavicle, right? And you're absorbing and utilizing oxygen at a high level. You're already training your body to be at a rest and digest. Okay, your vagus nerve. You're stimulating your vagus nerve. These are all things you can look up. Your vagus nerve. How important is your vagus nerve? Okay, even something as simple as humming, right? That's why people hum. When people hum, that vibration, when I'm making that noise, whatever hum I'm making, that's already pulling a cord, which is your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a long cord that goes from your, I believe, your right foot all the way up to your brainstem. Okay, and it influences so many things in your body. Okay, you can look it up, right? VAGUS nerve, vagus nerve. You got different vagus nerve exercises. So again, that's all part of nervous system and hormonal repatterning and recalibration. When stored stuff moves, you may feel tired, headachy, emotional, foggy, achy, irritable. That's not damage, that's traffic. Again, healing crisis. When all the shit is being pushed out from your cells, okay, from your organs, from different parts of your body, just all rushed into your blood. It has to get expelled from your blood to your lymph. It has to get expelled, or to your kidneys or liver, different eliminative organs. Okay, it has to get expelled, and it doesn't feel good because it's a bunch of toxins being rushed through. That's why if you're on a deep detox, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get gassy. You're gonna go to the bathroom. Things are gonna happen. Okay. Number 4, healing reactivates circulation in stagnant areas. Pain often hides in areas with poor blood flow, fascia restriction, nerve inhibition, right? Okay. When circulation returns, old injuries speak up. Dormant pain signals reappear. Sensation intensify briefly. Think a limb waking up after falling asleep. Tingly, uncomfortable, normal. Your nervous system resists change, even good change. The nervous system values predictability over health, right? Because why? Whatever feels comfortable, whatever is familiar is comfortable. That's why people can't understand those crazy people that their calm is chaos. Like a woman, crazy bitch, right? Her expression of love is chaos and drama and war. And then you make up and you make up, you fuck, and then you go to war again. Because they're calm in the storm, because that's how they grew up. So their nervous system was taught chaos. So without the chaos, ironically, the peace is what's bothering them. When they're at peace, when you're treating them good, that's why the majority of them, when you treat them good, hey, you do this and you do that for them, you be a so-called good man. They cheat, they either cheat on you, they buck up, they leave, they bug out, because they're already programmed for chaos. See, your nervous system, you're there. Consciously, I want to get better. I don't want to fight anymore. You're crying. You're all bugged out. His bitch is crying, everything. But she doesn't understand. Her nervous system is programmed. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done. Their healing is Captain Morgan's and, drinking, not, not Captain Morgan. I was going to say Captain Black, but, whatever blunt they're smoking, their healing is smoking weed and drinking alcohol, right? So it says, this is why people, it says, if your body has lived in dysfunction for years, that state feels normal. Healing feels threatening. The system pushes back. This is why people say, I started doing the right things and felt worse. Your system is renegotiating safety. Healing happens in phases, not a straight line. Most people expect bad, treatment good. Real healing looks like this: bad, worse, weird, better, dip, better, stable. That dip is the healing crisis. Temporary, self-limiting, followed by improved baseline. If it's severe, progressive, or not followed by improvement, then the approach needs adjustment, dose, pace, or method. Suppression avoids discomfort. Healing requires participation. Symptom suppression says, be quiet. Healing says, tell me the truth. Truth is messy at first, but once the body finishes expressing, inflammation settles, energy returns, sleep deepens, mood stabilizes, pain decreases at the root. Important distinction. A true healing crisis is temporary, mild to moderate, accompanied by insight or shifts, followed by improvement. It is not severe deterioration, long-term worsening, ignoring red flags, pushing through blindly. Wise practitioners slow things down when needed. Okay? And bottom line, you feel worse before better because the body is finally allowed to finish unfinished business. Right? You've been bugged out eating all kinds of madness for years. What do you think, man? How long do you think the process takes? 2 months, 3 months? This is a serious thing, you know? And just let me get this, because I mentioned, you gotta. It's all from the Lord, Yahweh Shem Shai, right? This is the King Asa. This is Second Chronicles 16 and 12 NLT. In the 39th year of his reign, Asa developed a serious foot disease. Yet even with the severity of his disease, he did not seek the Lord's Yahweh's help, but turned only to his physicians. So he died in the 41st year of his reign. Okay? So that's another very serious thing you got to understand. Right? You got to seek to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. What did it say in Sirach? Right? My son, in verse 9, my son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord, and he will make thee whole. Oh, and a real quick point on verse 8, I forgot, of such that the apothecary, I just wanted to make that distinction in the Seba, in the common English, right? What it says is, right, verse 8, those who prepare ointments, right? So apothecary works with salves, ointments, okay? You make pain ointments, skin eruption ointments, all kinds of different things. A person had a fracture, okay, the broken bone, you have a herb called comfrey. I've a lot of experience with that herb. I've been using it for years, right? Specifically the root, comfrey root, which has been demonized heavily by Esau. And I found out pretty much why, because they used to feed the cattle, the cows, comfrey leaf. They used to graze the leaf, the comfrey, because it has so much minerals, especially it had protein, had a lot of nutrients in there, and they needed to sell their corn, right? So they demonized it. They pretty much did a way out study of taking an excessive amount, a crazy amount of comfrey, and pretty much internally, which can damage your liver. Of course, you take any herb excessively at a high level, high dosage, you're gonna mess yourself up, man. That's the skill. That's the skill of knowing what you're doing, right? Because the skill comes out. How do you get the skill? You got to carve it out, man. You got to put in the work, blood, sweat, and tears, read, study, observe, test, trial and failure. Trial and failure. Okay? Trial and failure, man. Right? Like I remember there's a quote, something about, what's the difference between a master and a student? The master pretty much, he something along the lines of like he tried it, he failed 99 times, but he got it right on the 100th time, or something like 999, and he got it on the 1,000th time, or something like that. Like these when you're a beginner martial artist or whatever, and you're training, you're doing the same thing. You're doing kata, you're doing punch, 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 this, the same thing, hundreds, thousands of times. The difference between the master is he didn't stop. You may have stopped because you found it boring, but he didn't stop. He kept going, All right, so it says, finishing up, those who prepare ointments will make a compound out of them, and their works will never be finished because there's so many things you can do. And there's so many different issues. And there's so many different herbs you can mix, you know? And well-being spreads over the whole world from them. Okay, so anyway, hope you're edified with that. Shalom, kahalalin la Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, Wahabar Shalom to the elect.